How are my ladies today?
It's a great July in Texas. Hot.
Hot here too. Yeah. I think it's
Nice.
hot all over.
Yeah.
I think Boyd's got heat too, or did last
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I've actually been at the resort here for the last couple of days. It's not a resort; it's a campground. But at least we got away for a little while, and they were happy.
That's nice.
The kids were happy. So I hope you guys are happy too. Welcome to the Certification Coaching Q&A Webinar for July 2020. Along with me, Alicia and Jennifer, our CCO resident experts in medical coding and billing. Hello, ladies.
Hey.
Hello. I love seeing the names come in and recognizing names.
Mm-hmm.
Got Beaumont, Texas. Woohoo.
Yeah, let us know where you're calling in from. We're also live streaming on Facebook and YouTube as well tonight. So if you are listening on those platforms, please let us know where you're coming from. We'd love to know. And if this is your first time here, first of all, welcome if this is your first time here. This is a general webinar about all things medical business certification and medical coding, billing, and practice management related. And just a couple of housekeeping items. We cannot hear you during this webinar, but you can type a question in your question box or chat, whatever tends to come up on your webinar control panel. And we'll attempt to answer those in the questions in the webinar itself. But if not, we'll give you instructions what you can do with those questions afterwards. And also let you know that we've got another one of those wonderful prizes that we've been doing for years at the end of the webinar. So we'll be sharing that here in a second as well. First one is how many webinars have you attended here at CCO? We started back in 2011, 2012, something like that. I was going to find the first video that we ever uploaded to our YouTube channel, but I didn't have enough time today. So how many webinars have you attended? First time? Is this your first time? Woot, woot. Or are you back for more? That means you just had maybe one. 2 to 5 is a repeat offender. 5 to 10 is liking it here at CCO. And CCO frequent flyer is 10 plus. And you will probably hear my 5-year-old in the background. I can hear her now.
We can't.
No? Good.
Can't hear.
No. She's doing good.
That's why I have a $600 mixer right now. So I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4. Oh, actually, I'm not even did the poll. You did the poll, didn't you?
I was going to say, do you want me to close it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me count down. I love doing
that.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, right. And sharing the poll.
Ooh, nice. First time, 36%. Wow, great. Welcome.
Yeah.
Back for more, 10%. That means you're just been here one time. Repeat offenders, 2 to 5, 21%. Liking it here at CCO, 5 to 10 at 7%. And the frequent flyers, 10 plus webinars at 26%. Wow, you guys are rock stars, all of you.
They are. Thank you. Thank you for spending so much time with us. Let me get that. I got my mouse in the wrong place.
Got it. So again, this webinar is about all things medical billing and management, practice management and billing and whatever, all those things around coding,
Lots
right?
of medical stuff.
Yeah, lots of medical stuff. We're going to have some pre-prepared questions that we're going to answer because we would like to get these things done ahead of time so people can possibly get these uploaded to YouTube or get CEUs from them, or they're called nuggets in our land. So that's what they're called. And Jennifer, what you got tonight?
Well, we're going to talk about ethics of the coder in whatever kind of remote environment it may be. Tonsillectomies, I read a rather interesting article about it, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. And then Medicare has a new ABN form out, and we'll go into that.
Very exciting.
Alicia.
And 3 topics that came in that I nabbed was understanding the different types of breast biopsies, procedures on the colon. We're going to talk about the CPT codes and kind of how to get started when coding for angioplasties. I just wanted to give a heads up. Jennifer definitely doesn't have all of her credentials under her name. I think it would have gone out much further on the line. I noticed that right away. We have to fix that.
You better do this one. My family just decided to play piano.
Oh, okay. Well, it's distracting you, but we can't hear it. So what we like to do with our webinars is the first hour we do Q&A questions, we draw for prizes at the end, and then we look at questions that you guys submit while the webinar is going on. And again, like Boyd mentioned a little bit ago, we can see the questions. Nobody else can see your questions unless somebody responds, but we can't hear you. You can hear us, all right? So we can communicate back and forth. But again, we may not answer your question right there. We can save it till the end after the webinar's over. So some people like to leave and some people like to stay, and we just chat and kind of off the cuff help with the questions. But it's important that you do stay till the end of the webinar, because we have a giveaway, and the best giveaway is a month of the CCO club. We'll talk about the CCO club. Oh, a whole year. I'm sorry, not a month. A month. That's
I was
nothing.
looking at it going, did it change? Wait.
No, it's a year. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I had a month. Thank you. So again, there's different things that you can win. You can take an hour with one of us, or you can take that year of the CCO Club Basic. Amazing benefit to that. And if you need CEUs, hey, that's where the CCO Club really comes to play.
And we'll tell you about the CCO Club there in a couple minutes when we do a poll around that.
Okay, so if you want to go to the CCO Club after the webinar, it's really easy. Go to cco.us/club, and we'll talk more, like Boyd said, about what's all in there. Hey, real quick, guys, there has not been a lot of people taking credentialing exams with all of this COVID and social distancing and so on and so forth. So we used to have sometimes like 5 slides. Well, it's not happening, you know, because people aren't testing much, but they are testing. That's the good news. You can test. You may have to go a little bit farther or do testing differently than you have in the past. Make sure you reach out to your local chapters and the people, and let us know if you have taken yours and passed. These are the people that have recently used our products, and let us know that they passed. Do you want to do those, Jennifer?
Actually, these are old.
I sure will.
These are old, so
sorry?
it's okay. We did these previously, so
Oh, we did?
Yeah, I just missed this one, not checking through. So these are
all. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I say good because, you know, as
actually,
you can see,
that looks new, doesn't it? 7/15/2020. Actually, it does. That looks new. So go ahead. I think these are new reports. On my fault.
Can you see it, Jennifer?
I can see them if I move my head. So,
okay.
Nicole Zielinski passed in June using the BAT technique and a blitz for her CPC. And of course, these are all CPCs because that's what you can pretty much get tested right now online. Matt Nice in December, so that's great that he let us know. Elizabeth Cheris in February with her CPC, and then Ann Sully in July, just recently, just last week. So that was a very quick notification for her CPC.
And excellent. You see a little thing there called the BAT system is something that everybody used during their study sessions. So we might plug that a little bit in the webinar as we go through a little bit. I don't think we've got a slide per se about it, but
I use the BAT technique on two of my answer sheets, I think. So we'll be able to see them. We'll be able to show you what it looks like.
Noted that she did the CPMA Blitz and it helped her pass her CEMC, so Certified Evaluation and Management. So very good, very good.
If you guys recently passed and you're in the club, we'd love to kind of hear how that experience was for you. You know, people are asking us, so we're not testing right now, but so let us know how that was, so we can share that with other people. Are we ready to get started, Boyd? I'm ready. All right,
so.
Go for it, girl.
Get my picture off here. I got
my roller bag. Talking about ethics in remote environments. So how do I know when the chapter, because a lot of them are hosting virtual meetings right now, how do we know that the members who are there, who are present, how do we know they're really there? because it's over there. They might be logging in on their phone or on their computer. And this has actually always been a problem because, people who've always wanted to work from home. This has always been one of the employer's biggest concerns.
Zoom in there a little bit, Alicia, if you can.
That's okay. Are people actually doing the work? So unfortunately, the answer really is sometimes we just don't know. So we are going on that blind faith, that trust. So this is the responsibility of the member to conduct themselves in that ethical manner. So what is ethics? I love talking about ethics. I'm a philosophy major as well, so it is definitely right up my alley. Dictionary.com, the very basic definition is moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. So how do we learn morals? How did we get those ethics? Typically, it's from our upbringing, maybe your school system, maybe religious or cultural backgrounds have a difference in ethics, or from our parents, we might have learned right from wrong and responsibility and things like that. But once we get into the work environment, ethics are things like, did you really clock out? If you didn't clock out, are you writing down the right time of when you really clocked out? Did we scoot it back down just a little bit, Alicia? Did we, of course, people always think of how much paper and pencil and staples did you take from your work? But even admitting, okay, I'm sorry, I failed to get that report to you on time. Can I still do it? Some people may not want to fess up about that. That's actually ethical to stand up and say, I'm sorry, I forgot, without trying to pass the blame on everybody else, or sitting through that entire meeting on your computer. You don't have your camera on, how do they know I'm there? And I'm going to do a funny little side story real quick. I am a professor. My husband's a professor. So lately we've been doing a lot of these online sessions. How do we know our students are really there? Well, my husband makes them turn their camera on so he can see. So he can see when they leave, and he can see that they're driving around in their car, and he can see the things going on that, if you're driving around in your car, are you really paying attention to what's being said? So, people right now are so busy with juggling so many things, so it's kind of difficult right now. But we just hope that people are really there for the education, because many companies, hospitals, organizations, they have a code of ethics, and AAPC has a code of ethics that we hold our members to. They are very simple: integrity, respect, commitment, competence, fairness, and responsibility. And there is a link for those code of ethics. They were expanded upon in an article on AAPC by Idra Landry. And I won't go into detail on every one of them, but they're just kind of broadened that definition of integrity. What would that involve? And if you really want to know, it is on the website. So they do have, in that link, you could click on each of those. You can click on integrity, you can click on respect, and you can see what they have. And they even have examples of what they're talking about, which is, are you sitting there for that exam? Or are you, cheating somehow? We always had people, in grade school write the answer on their hand, or that little slip of paper that they sneak in. If you go to a testing center, you can't even wear a jacket, you can't wear pants with pockets, you can't wear anything, can't bring in your purse. Some of these testing facilities, because they don't want any chance that anybody's doing anything unethical. So we can go down a little bit more. So some of those that were identified are, maintaining and enhancing the dignity of our profession. So that's a biggest one I'm going to expand on. Accurately representing your credentials that you earned. So we all like to say, I earned this. So you don't want somebody else cheating, right? Because I earned mine. So what does it say if I give it to you? You got to work for it, just like I worked for it. So we'll go to the next one. And AHIMA also has their code of ethics as well. Theirs is Yeah, next page. Theirs is 13 long, so I did include theirs. But AAPC is kind of held as the gold standard in coding. So there are, over 170,000 members of AAPC. So it is an organization a lot of people look at for coding. And since it is that gold standard, you're upheld to this knowledge of the material. And that includes going to a meeting, attending a seminar, or one of the conferences, that you're actually there getting that knowledge that's being taught. So if you're representing that by submitting the index number, then you're going to need to be held for that knowledge as well. So it's not just meetings, testing, and even your daily activities will hold consequences for any unethical actions. So the certification examination of any professional, we all know we worked hard, we studied hard, whether it was watching courses, reading the books, going through practice examples, attending a school. We all worked hard to get that. So each person who holds that credential had to earn that credential. And we'd like to be recognized for our effort and treated equally, because we all don't want to. I actually just had somebody mention to me today, wait, I spent my time on that work and that person copied it. So, it's unfair treatment. So we don't want somebody else cheating to get their credential. A lot of us want to work in the working from home. That's why a lot of people get into coding. We hear it quite often because they want to work from home or have that flexibility. So that does come with a stigma. And that is why some businesses are not very flexible with working from home, because you have to beat that stigma. How do I know you're really working while I'm paying you to be at home? Currently, due to COVID-19, many employers kind of have to relax that a little bit and work based off of trust that their employees are actually doing what they say they're doing. But there may not be many checks in place, checks and balances, ways of tracking that may not be in place right now, because so many businesses might have had to go quickly and convert to some other means to get all their information in. But when that employee, that level of trust is very high, because when you have children at home, things going on, right now, maybe your business or the office, the facility is not having as many encounters, not having as many visits because they had to decrease the population from COVID. You don't see 40 patients a day now, maybe you see 15 to 20. So you're not entering as much work. So how do we know that, how are employers going to know that people are still working well? They may not have had tracking systems to monitor when you logged on. So I can log on at 8 a.m. and if I set my program that my computer doesn't close all day, after 10 minutes, normally your computer will shut down. If I set my program that it doesn't close, I can go do the laundry, I can go out and take the dog for a walk, I can do all these things and make it look like I'm working, so that we don't have that excuse anymore to look at. So one of the most important takeaways from those code of ethics is that strive to achieve the highest quality, effectiveness, and dignity in the process and products of our professional work. So how we got there and what it is we're doing. So we want to uphold that, accurately representing our credential that we earned and the status of our membership, because we have to trust our members that when they say they're attending a meeting, that they really are. We hope the member wants that education. That's why they're attending the meeting. They really want to earn their credential, and they really enjoy their job, and they believe in the coding industry. So that's what we put for with the ethics. So definitely, there are consequences for breaking those rules and breaking that trust. You can receive a letter of reprimand, a removal from office if you hold an office as a officer in your chapter, perhaps, a revocation of your credential and your membership, possibly just for a year, possibly indefinitely. So there are consequences, or you could lose your job as well for, unethical behavior. So there's always consequences. We see it quite often when you might have been at a chapter meeting and somebody will, oh, but my kid's sick, I got to leave early. But is their kid sick 4 out of the 6 meetings they've attended, kind of thing? They just always leave early just to get that CEU, or they come in the last half of the session so they can receive the index number. Sometimes at conferences, people would just run in the room in the last 10 minutes because that's when they flash the index number, which is unfortunately sorry for the member because they're missing out on all that information. So if you're obtaining that index number saying that you attended a session about breast cancer and you don't know anything about breast cancer, that's kind of a sad shame for the member as well. But right now in the environment we have, there is a lot of remote work, there is virtual meetings, even your work may be doing things virtually in a meeting or something, and just working on that fact of trust. So just bringing it out there. I have seen it encountered recently, so that's why I mention it. And I know people that is kind of always in the back of their mind with their virtual chapters. How do I know my members are really there? So we just kind of have to use our faith, base it on trust. So.
And let's see, Nancy said that she works for a payer and they monitor them by mouse every 5 minutes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it would be able to tell them that the mouse is moving. And then Aya, which I'm not sure if I pronounced her name right, but Aya she mentioned remote work is controlled by one system indication of presence, like mouse clicking, productivity, quality, and questions asked and answered in a timely manner. So that's, if if a meeting scheduled, you're there. If somebody sends you a chat message, you should be able to answer it quickly. So
yeah,
that's good stuff. Oh, we got another poll. Okay. Let me get ready. In the past few months, which online meeting platform do you use most often? Oh, right. Let me get that ready.
This is mine that I decided to throw in there.
This is a good one.
I told everybody back in like March, you better buy stock in Zoom and go to webinar. That's right. Because they were going to be going up.
I have a feeling I know where this is going to go.
Other types.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Microsoft Teams is a big one, or Google Teams. Yeah.
I have meetings in Teams. Yeah. And of course, we have meetings in go to webinar and go to meeting. That's but of course it's not free either. So but it's very reliable. Okay. Wow, we got a lot, 75% now. So I'm going to count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They're still coming in. Oh, hold on. Share. There you go, Boyd. Are you surprised?
Wow, I was kind of surprised. Yeah, I thought it'd be a lot more Zoom. So that's interesting. I've been using GoToWebinar for years and years and years, and kind of Zoom is on the block. But I think the reason that Zoom got so popular is because they had a free plan, and GoToWebinar never really did for a long time. And a lot of people were using it for that. But
Teams, WebEx, and Skype have been in the chat. So
I see WebEx over in YouTube as well. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We're going to do one of the questions that came in was on understanding different breast biopsies. Can you explain the different types of breast biopsies? And this actually came in from Whitney. So thank you. And I know that that was probably on her mind because she knows that I had to have that done. So very, very interesting. A lot of information. And what I did was I kind of divided it up using Find a Code, because that is the encoder that I really like to use. But an article I had read, which had, I think in 2016, 2017, there was a change in the CPT codes for biopsies. And so, and it was a pretty drastic change. And that article, this little paragraph came from that. They said there's still some procedures, such as when they do the fine needle aspirations, or sometimes if you have a cyst and they go ahead and just aspirate that cyst, that don't have imaging included, because for the most part these codes have imaging, but if you have a surgical code, then the imaging has to be coded separately. So what I decided to do is to look it up just like you would if you were looking your manuals or in your encoder. Go to your index, and I looked up under biopsies, which there are lots of biopsies, and then I just picked breast. And the main header for that states that we have a code range of 19081 through 19086. Okay, so that's one section, which, we got like 6 codes. And then with in addition, 19100 and through, which is just one other code, 19101. So I took those out and pulled the descriptions. Now, the main one I made a little bit bigger so that you could see, and then I went ahead and left these small. The little bubbles here just indicate special information about the code. The most important thing you'll see right here is this plus symbol, which tells you that's an add-on code. And if you're not familiar with that, that means that is not the main code. That is an additional to tell that you're doing additional biopsies, maybe additional lesions, something like that. So when you look at the 19081, that would be what I would call like a parent code, my lingo. And then if you do more than that first lesion, you would code 19082 because it has that plus symbol. So let's look at the code itself. Of course, we knew we're doing a breast biopsy, and what differentiates each one of these codes in our range. And the first thing that you're going to see is the wording and the verbiage is very similar. Ultimately, these codes are showing that they're going to put in a device or put in something that allows them to see what they're going to biopsy, where it's located, and that it needs guidance. And the different types of guidances will tell you which code you're going to use. So I underlined here for 19081 that it's stereotactic guidance. Then we're going to skip the 82 because we know that's an add-on code, so that's the same. And then we jump down to 19083, and that's an ultrasound guidance. And that's very commonly done, an ultrasound. So stereotactic, if you look that up, it ultimately just means it's visual, like having an X-ray or mammogram is what they would do. But you'll see here in a little bit, they actually state mammogram. Then the 19084 is an add-on code, so we can skip that. And then we're going to go down to another parent code, which is the 19085. Notice that it's an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, so that tells you that that code range allows you 3 ways to do the guidance. That's what differentiates the codes. So we have the stereotactic, the ultrasound, or an MRI, if you're going to use those codes. And but notice again, this is the biopsy. So what else do we need to know? If we do a biopsy of the breast, remember the other code range that told you the 19100, that is a percutaneous needle core. Okay, it's different. The way you're doing the biopsy is different in that we're doing a needle biopsy. And it does tell you, though, that it's not going to include the imaging. whereas our previous codes showed you the imaging. So these are the details that differentiates, that lets you, you have to read the op report and find out which procedure was done. And then the 19101 is they're just doing an open incisional biopsy of the breast. Now, additional codes, 19105, if they're going to go in and do an ablation or something like that, maybe they're doing an exploration, 19110, that's there. But notice that it's talking about what they're doing it for, a fibroadenoma, or we have lactiferous, what a fun thing to say, duct, or a papilloma. And then here we've got 19112, which is an excision, okay, of the special duct fistula. Now, these aren't necessarily biopsies, but they are going in and getting something, right? So let's go ahead and skip down to the next section, which is an excision of the breast lesion identified by preoperative placement of a radiological marker. This is what I had done. So 19125 just means that's what they did. They went in, they had a radio marker, single lesion. And again, very simple explanation. Notice that the 19126 is an add-on code. So if you have more than one lesion or more than one place that they think might be cancerous. So I went ahead and pulled the description of what this is when they do it. And I'll let you read that at your leisure. But ultimately, what they're going to do is they're going to place in radiology, okay, which means they're either going to do it with a mammogram, they're going to do it with an ultrasound, you know, one of those ways to identify where it is in the picture, and then they're going to go in and mark it, usually with a wire, but there's other ways to do that. Sometimes they'll go in and they'll put a little dye in there. Then again, this is just the basic. If you are doing the one lesion, again, it tells you the 19125. And if you are doing two, you know, more than that, it's 19126. Now, this is not necessarily a simple procedure. Notice here that they have 3 people with the patient. There's a couple different ways that you can do it, but ultimately the way I had it done, which I think is the most common, unless you got really big fancy machines that allow you to lay in a bed and the breast comes down through the machine and stuff, is they put you under a mammogram machine like this, and you have 2 people helping, and the radiologist is back there looking, trying to get it marked, and they literally grid out on the mammogram. So they got all these extra devices that they put on the mammogram machine that makes a grid, and then they got their light and stuff, and then they go in there with a Sharpie marker and mark where they're going to do it. And then ultimately the radiologist comes over while you're still in the mammogram machine, and they numb it, and then they place the needle and then run a wire, which I've got some pictures for you that I found online that give a better description. But this is, you're in a little room with 3 people trying to get the correct spot. So this is what it looks like. So these several of these came from a blog, but I footnoted where it came from so that you could go and read more information. They numb up the area. Now, you're in the mammogram machine. I had one in mammogram. If they do it via ultrasound, they just use an ultrasound machine. They find it, they mark it, and then they put the needle in again, so they can see it. Now, they can do that with an MRI as well, but once that needle goes in, then they put the wire in, and they're going back and forth, back and forth. So it's not a quick process. And see, that little wire is like a hair, and then that little hair, they leave it in there. They stick that in there after they find the place. Then they roll that up and tape it to you, and then they take you to the OR to have it cut out. And then what it does is this what it looks like on the mammogram machine after they've got it. It hooks, and then that's the area that they're going to remove. So to code the placement doing this process, you have 19281, which is what I had done. So that is, I had there's the clip, metallic pellet. There's different ways that they do it. I had a wire and needle, percutaneous, the first lesion, including the mammographic guidance. So 19218 took care of mine. Then you have your add-on code. Here is if you're going to do it stereotactic, same thing. And then notice 19285 was ultrasound guidance. And I think by far that's mostly the way they do it. It just depends where the spot is that they have to do it. And the closer center mass, they end up, I think, doing the mammogram, makes it more difficult. Then you have your add-on code and then the MRI placement. So again, here's the description of how they do it, which is ultimately how I just explained it to you. Very exciting and never seen that done before. Went very smoothly. And then they wheel you into the OR, where they put you under and they go in and just kind of cut that out with margins and send that off. So again, my results came back with no problems. So I'm excited to share that with you, but it is something that I didn't know that they did it that way in the beginning. So thank you for that question, Whitney, and I hope that helps you with your codes.
Well, I could have told you all that. That's what I had done.
Did you have yours done in a mammogram too?
Mine was a mammogram, yeah.
Oh my
gosh. And then they take you to the OR room and the radiologist's still there. And then when she took it out and they x-rayed it right there and stuff, mine was, they did an x-ray on it. So after they took it out, they x-rayed it. So yeah.
Did they put you under?
Numbed
for surgery?
No.
Oh, oh, okay.
Numbed me. Laid on a table with a hole in it, you know.
Oh, now see, I didn't
They
get the
kind
table
of
with the
laid
hole
me
in it.
up so that she was like underneath me. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
They did mine, put my wire in, taped it so it wouldn't move, and then they wheeled me in and did the whole OR thing. So I had a great anesthesiologist. So yeah, good stuff. I don't see our cameras anymore. Are we still? Oh, it's because I've got this moving. I'm sorry. There you are. We have a flash sale, you guys. If you want more information about the flash sale, it's really easy to find. cco.us/exclusive. Right now, 30% off of all the courses and the review blitzes. If you want to say you've already had a course or you think you're right there, you're okay. You just need a blitz to get you over the hump to help you with the testing and everything. Go out and check that 30% off. If you aren't going to be testing soon or needing this, share with your friends. Let them know that this will end the 25th at midnight. What a great sale. All right. Oh, tonsillectomies. Okay, let me get my camera off real quick for you. Get out of the way here.
I'm pretty sure I would have spelled that one wrong in the spelling bee.
I can't spell tonsillectomy.
In the spelling bee? It's habit for me to do one L and then it comes up red and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's 2 L's. So yeah. How many times does a patient have to come to see a doctor before they performed a tonsillectomy? So I actually read an article about tonsillectomies that I found quite fascinating, and so I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to bring some of this education to you guys because that's what we love to do. So of course, I have some pictures. They're not as lovely as Alicia's, but I do have illustrations this time. Normally, the tonsils are located on each side. They're bilateral, so at the back of the throat. They are a type of gland, and they work with the immune system. So typically, they can get inflamed or swollen. You might have a sore throat, trouble breathing. We typically see this in children or teenagers. So typically by the time you're 18, full-grown adult, you may not have much of a problem anymore. But the tonsils, because at that time as you get older, their function with the immune system is not as prevalent after puberty. So they typically don't see it in adults. I'm just one of those rare people because I can't get around stuff, otherwise my tonsils inflame. So is an example of what a normal throat would look like, and then abnormal when when the tonsils are inflamed. So we can see that swollen, the tonsil on your left-hand side is pretty small, you know, a little size of a pea, and of course swollen tonsil, now it's like the size of a kidney bean. So it's in this picture, it's much redder, might get these white spots in the back of the throat as well. So it can be caused either by a viral or bacterial infection, though. It causes tonsillitis. So tonsillitis, inflammation of the tonsils, itis. So the cause most often treated is Streptococcus pyogenes, which is a type A Streptococcus. So there are other strains of Streptococcus that can cause tonsillitis. However, group A is the most common. The bacterium found in the throat and on the skin is there, and so that's what can cause some of this inflammation. There is already bacterium in the throat that can get infected. So, and it could be spread by direct contact from the nose or the throat, or when it's on the skin, from the skin of infected people. So testing, normally you come into the doctor, I got a sore throat. What are they going to do? They're going to take that lovely swab and stick it back there and make it cough and gag, and especially little kids hate it. And then a rapid test can be done. And typically if that comes back, then we know it's a bacterial infection, because that's how they can test for such things. Viral, though, on the other hand, so if it comes back negative, then they're going to send it out to a lab to determine if it's viral. And then in some cases, if they really can't determine the cause or the problem, then they're going to do a CBC, or complete blood count, and to tell what kind of cells are elevated to determine the type of infection. So typically it comes back quickly, it's a bacterial, and then they know how to treat it one way. If it doesn't come back, then they're going to send it out to lab to see if it's viral, and then they see what causes it in order to treat it another way. So they say, okay, your inflamed tonsils, all right, do we take the tonsils out? Now, when I was a kid, and I'm sure, you know, when many people can remember this, yeah, oh, you got tonsillitis, we'll just take them out. Okay, that way you don't have that problem anymore. Well, it's not that common anymore to do that. Just because you have tonsillitis, they don't just perform a tonsillectomy or a removalectomy. So a tonsillectomy are performed on patients who aren't responding to the antibiotics, or they have recurrent episodes of tonsillitis. So for patients with recurrent tonsillitis, they have come up with a new threshold just last year. This is now the best practice that they use, of 753. If you have 7 infections in 1 year, they're going to perform a tonsillectomy. If you have 5 infections per year over 2 consecutive years, they're going to do a tonsillectomy. Or finally, if you have 3 infections per year in 3 years, then they're going to do a tonsillectomy on you. So then they will remove those tonsils. So this information came from the American Academy of Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery. So I think AAOS orthopedics is much easier to say. So indicate that common indications for with or without an adenoidectomy is in children. So, and I thought very fascinating that the indications are recurrent tonsillitis or obstructive sleep disordered breathing or obstructive sleep apnea. I read that and I was like, what? Where would that come from? I just thought it was very fascinating. But if we look at it, the little tiny, right above the tongue, yeah, that's their adenoid. And going down in between the nose passage, that is your tonsil. So we can see that when the tonsil's enlarged, what's it doing? It's blocking the airway there. So that little canal running there from the nose back down the throat is the airway. So if that tonsil's becoming enlarged, it's obstructing the airway, which typically, you know, in sleep time, that's one of the causes of sleep apnea. So it can create either a narrow airway or totally block it. So, and that's where we get typically patients with obstructive sleep disorder or obstructive sleep apnea are tested. They do a sleep study. They might do an ECG, an echocardiogram, thyroid function. There's a lot of different tests they might perform on a patient with sleep apnea because they like to determine what's causing it, where is it coming from. But if a tonsil is found to be the cause, then they're going to do a tonsillectomy on that patient with sleep apnea. I just found that very fascinating. For the insurance side, now, you know, I love insurance companies. Tonsillectomies are considered medically necessary by most insurance carriers when you have recurrent history with documented results. You can't just keep going in for a sore throat. You have to have those results of those tests back for that tonsillectomy. Or an antibiotic intolerance. What if they're allergic to it? Okay, we can't give them the antibiotics to keep treating it because they're allergic. It also indicated that you have to include their temperature as well, so their fever. If they have documented sleep disordered breathing, documented obstructive sleep apnea, or for tonsil malignancy. So there are the insurance would cover it and find it medically necessary, typically in people under the age of 18 when you have those issues. Now, of course, the sleep apnea you can typically get when you're older, but the codes are broken down by ages. So that's always something to keep track of when your codes go by age. So you want to make sure that you're documenting and billing for the correct age of the patient. 42820 and 42821 is a tonsillectomy and adenoidectomy. So they're taking out the tonsils and the adenoids, either younger than 12 or older than 12. 42825 and 42826, those are tonsillectomies, and they call them primary or secondary. And now you're going, okay, does that mean one tonsil, other tonsil, left tonsil? Which one does it mean? Actually, primary means the initial removal. So the first time they took it out, because a secondary means they had to go back in. There was something they missed, a part they missed, a tissue that's still causing a problem. So secondary would be like a repeat. So primary, the first time they go. Secondary tonsillectomy would be when they got something, a little piece that's still there, because sometimes they leave part of the tissue, and so then if it's still causing a problem, then they have to go back in and do that. So that's also the same for primary, secondary adenoidectomy, because you can do an adenoidectomy on its own as well. So they are considered bilateral. So it's already a bilateral procedure. So if you only are removing one, then we bill it with a modifier for reduced services. So standard procedure for tonsillectomy is to take out both of them. So if you're not taking out both, then we have to indicate that that procedure has not been performed and we did something less than that standard procedure, which would be a 52 modifier used on the claim. And I think that's all I had.
Sarah says, if the tonsils grow back in adulthood, is that a secondary procedure if they go back and have to take them out? My mother's.
If they took them out the first time, yeah. Then
grew back. And I know some other people said.
Yeah.
That
yeah, because I found it interesting.
If they have to be removed, I mean.
Yeah, because I have, I can't be around paint. People are like, oh, are you painting your house? I'm like, no, I have a medical excuse. I don't get to paint. But in inhaling the fumes of paint inflames my tonsils, and I get tonsillitis. And I'll get tonsillitis a couple times a year, and I'm like, I'm an adult. Why do I have, but there's been other studies done that that's where I keep my allergies. Some people's allergies are here in the sinus cavity. My allergies are in my throat. So if I had a tonsillectomy, now where would my allergies go?
My tonsils just got eaten away as I got older. I have none left. Didn't have to have them removed.
Dissipated.
So got a great poll. What is your work status? We want to know, are you working remote? Are you in-house? Or are you temporary laid off right now? Oh boy, man, everybody's not asleep. They're pumping in those answers fast. Good to see. There's a lot of people working remote. Wow. And a lot of people are like, wow, okay, that's good. We are almost at 70% already. So they're popping them. Okay, I'm going to count it down. 5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4, 3, 2, 1. And 50% of you guys are working remote. Wow. I'm surprised 31% is still in house though, but I'm not surprised that 19, almost 20% of people are laid off. That's, that is
Hopefully that will get
surprising.
better. Yes,
Yeah.
hopefully that's going to change, because that was
Yeah.
temporary laid off.
That's right. Temporarily laid off. And I think that that time, what they said, like in July, that's over. And so people hopefully will start going back to work. So this next question, CPT procedures on the colon, the question that came in to the club was, what is the difference in a colonoscopy and a colostomy? I've just started my course and I'm having trouble with these terms and codes. So glad that I found CCO and I wish I'd found you sooner. Well, thank you for saying that. We appreciate hearing that. That always makes us feel good. So because this is new for you, that's why you're having trouble with the difference, because it's the end of the word. Remember earlier, Jennifer was saying itis, and then she would follow up that with inflammation, itis, inflammation. That's because that's what that means. So a colonoscopy is different because it's a scope oscopy, and a colostomy is actually something that's a result of a procedure. And I went in and found a great statement from Mayo Clinic. Excellent resource to go to Mayo Clinic. I kind of tell people, don't go to WebMD because everything ends up with brain tumors, because you can just keep going down the signs and symptoms, and it's like, oh yeah, I do have a headache, and but Mayo Clinic is designed to their website to teach the patient, and so the verbiage they use is excellent. And they state that a colonoscopy is actually an exam, and it's done to go in and look at the large intestine, see if there's any abnormalities. They will use a flexible, long tube that this is actually what it looks like. It's got 3 little holes there. It's got a light. It's got a little port where they can stick something through and use it to, if they need to take a polyp or something. And it's got a camera. And so they have a video and that allows you to go in and they see it up on the screen live while they're doing the procedure. But why would you do a colonoscopy? This graphic was amazing, and I footnoted that so that you could go and look at the where I got this picture. So what's so great about this image is that it shows you the different things that why they would go in. So diverticulitis, which is just little pockets that develop outside of the like little balloons that happen to the intestine. Of course, cancer could look like a mass or a polyp, but it's going to be an abnormality in the lining of the the intestine there, the large intestine. Polyps, there's different types of polyps and different ways that they remove polyps. They've got snares and hot snares and biopsies. They got different ways to do that. Other lesions, like a flat lesions, like a discolorization, something's not right. Maybe it's an ulcer. right? Adhesions, where it's pinching off, like something on the outside, scar tissue or something's developed, and those adhesions that help hold all of your internal organs in place. Sometimes people have more of those, and they can make a little stricture and cause pains and abnormalities. Ulcerative colitis. Oh, I understand that's horribly painful and something that you have to deal with throughout your life, that ends up putting you in the hospital a lot and having to take medication. And also, if you didn't know, your appendix is at the end of the large intestine, but they won't go in and like take your appendix this way. They actually go in laparoscopically and open up, view and snip it off that way. I've never heard of them doing one with a colonoscopy, but I think they're just telling you the anatomy, that the appendix can become inflamed and you can get appendicitis, which is an inflammation, right, of the appendix. So what ultimately the colonoscopy allows you to do is to visualize and identify anything that's going on with the colon and all the way through the large intestine. Now, if you go into the small intestine, and that's where you see this branching off over here, that's different. That is no longer a colonoscopy. It has different names. And then it always tells you, the codes will tell you, you use the codes by how far you go. And a little tidbit of information that you may want to jot down, it's always the intent of where you wanted to go. If the provider intends to go in past a specific area and is not able to because of a mass, then, for example, then you code the intent where they wanted to go, and then you use modifiers to indicate there was a reason why we couldn't go to that specific point. Okay, that's just something that you may have come up in your testing. Okay, and that's really applicable for real world that happens. So what are the codes for colonoscopies? So I went ahead and made this little graph. You got 45378 through 45393, and you also have 45398. Did I say 45378? I feel like I said 98 twice. Okay, and these are all different things that would be done with a colonoscopy. So of course you have an ablation, the band ligation, biopsies, very, very common, right, to go in and do a biopsy. But you have decompression, dilation, exploration, hemorrhage, injection, and mucosal resection. So these are the codes that would be used with colonoscopy. So remember at the beginning we talked about the BAT technique? Well, this is how we teach you to do that. Find a code, actually partnered with CCO, and if you go in to find a code and you look at one of the codes like 45378, it'll have that little logo, the BAT technique, and it teaches you to underline specific words and highlight the meaning so that it pops out, so that you can get to the proper code to the highest specificity quicker. And just the act of doing this allows you to learn. It's a great technique to get you through your manuals and up close and personal with them, to understand the dynamics of the manual. And then when you go to test, it makes things go much faster, because not only are you doing this underlining and you're highlighting, but you're bubbling codes that are like in families together. And so I went ahead and showed you, because these other codes would be bubbled. You would bubble around this section next to 45378. So all of those codes would be circled, and then you would underline in this particular code flexible and diagnostic, because there's a difference between diagnostic and versus it not being diagnostic. Diagnostic means we're going in to figure out what the problem is and actually determine what the problem is, right? Diagnostic is a key word. And so we wanted to know also that when you use 45378, that you're going to take specimens. It doesn't matter how many specimens you take, and it doesn't matter how you do it, whether they're brushing or washing. And so it says, including collection of specimens by brushing or washing when performed, and then separate procedure. On top of that, these are all of the codes that would be similar to 45378. So again, I thought that was really helpful. Now, I wanted to go ahead and throw in the information on PCS as well, because, you know, I didn't know if you were taking for inpatient or outpatient credentialing and what particular your course was. Maybe it's terminology. But for PCS, how you would find the colonoscopy is you would go to your first three characters is you would go to the section would be O for med-surg. Your body system is the gastrointestinal system, so that would be a D. And then what is the operation that's being done? It's an inspection, because we're going in to visualize the inside of the large intestine. And then ultimately the code would be inspection of lower intestinal tract via natural or artificial opening, meaning you could go through a stoma, and it would be endoscopic, meaning you're visualizing it. So the difference in a colonoscopy and a colostomy is that if they have a problem, let's say there is a problem, there is a cancer, they remove it, and they need to take out part of the large intestine. So they will cut off that bad part, and they will route through the outside of the body, through the abdomen. They'll create a stoma, and they'll let that part of the large intestine, instead of going out of the body through the rectum, it'll come out through the abdomen. And then you wear a bag to collect what comes through the colon. So a colostomy is the result of an operation, a procedure where part of the colon is diverted. They bring out that artificial opening, the stoma, out of the abdominal wall. And this is what it looks like when they do that. That is actually the large intestine, and they just pull that out, and it's exposed. And you got to keep it, you know, clean and everything. And then there will be a special bag and an adhesive that goes over that. And that's what a colostomy is. It's a colostomy bag. This is a colostomy. Now, you can also, when you no longer have to have the colostomy, they can go back and revert it back and put everything back together. So your ICD for colostomy, if you have to code for that, because you know I love ICD codes, the main codes are we giving attention to the colostomy? Is that why you're here for a visit? Z43.3. This carries an HCC, by the way, another passion of mine. Are we there for fitting and adjustment? Z46.89. So say we're needing to see what type of an opening you would have for your ostomy bag. Is it malfunctioning? Do we have a complication? K94.03. Notice that's a K code because that has to do with the digestive tract. That also carries an HCC. And the status, your status post colostomy, meaning you have one, Z93.3, which carries an HCC, because again, then you would have visits for an attention to. So I wanted to make sure again that you had these codes to reference. Take them, go do more research on your own. You can go out and look at a procedure of them doing these. There's lots of pictures out there for you to be able to get more information. The difference between a colonoscopy and a colostomy. Great question. I'm glad that you asked that. All right. Oh, you know what? We had some reviews come in. We get a lot of reviews, and Boyd does a great job at keeping these fresh, the ones that come in new. If you want to know more about the testimonies that we get, it's real easy to find it. You just go to cco.us testimonials, and often they talk about our proven process, and there's a video that we have on that if you want to know our advice on how to get a credential and how to get through the process of doing that. It looks like Joyce said it was a better learning environment. Hello, I watched several YouTube videos, which is why a lot of people find us, and liked the format. I feel this will be a better learning environment for me. CCO offers a lot of extras to aid in the student success. For the rating, it is a 10. I am very happy I chose CCO so far. Thank you. And that came in on July 13th. So thank you, Joyce, for becoming a CCO club member. And the advantage is that because Joyce is a club member, this particular webinar, for example, she'll be able to access all of these lectures that we're giving, as well as being able to look at the transcription and going back and revisiting the recordings. And eventually, if it's turned into CEUs, then she'll have access to that as well. Again, you can see it, but all that extra access is there for our club members. So, hey, are you a club member? Let's see how many people are club members that are here. And I would be curious to see, while I find this poll real quick, because we had so many new people this time, right? So yes, no, I've decided not to join up at this point, or no, I don't know about it. Is it important? Whoa, 70% said yes, boom, like that. But now more people are voting, so it's changing. But you guys are on these are some of the fastest results, I think, for people picking.
They're trying out for Jeopardy.
Is that what it is?
See how quick they can hit that button to answer the question.
Okay, we are already at 71%. I see Glenna says, she goes, I'm going to join in a few days. Oh, right. Okay, so I'm going to close it now, and let's see. 43 said yes, 42 said no, and 15 still, what's it all about? Hey, that's half and half. That's really cool. Excellent. There's Barb. I see Barb. She's wonderful. She's been with us for a very long time. I see her mentioning, and Whitney in there. They're always seeing our lectures throughout the week. So Boyd had told you earlier that we're going to talk more about the club, and now we are. So not only do you have the ability to get CEUs, how I said just a little bit ago, you get access to these recordings again. We have everything transcribed. We have CEU questions, and we submit for CEUs. And now AHEMA and AAPC, if you get CEUs with one, they work for the other. That's kind of a nice, and if you got another credentialing organization, you always submit for that. And it's not just the billing and the coding. There's so much more. We have pathophysiology, we have pharmacology, we have compliance. It's really robust, and it's applicable to real world coding. Well, Jennifer's always given great information and stuff with billing because she really enjoys that. She's been a biller forever, right? She loves talking about that. And the extended product support, we're at your fingertips. We're always in the club, giving feedback and answering questions, and telling you that we found an article or this. And it's not just us, it's subject matter experts. We have interns in there. We have other students. We have people who are just members like you. Maybe you're a student or you're working and you come up with a scenario that you want to get a second opinion or a resource on. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great area to be. Again, if you want more information, go to cco.us /club. Oh, the new Medicare ABN. Okay, let me get rid of my face here for you.
Make sure I'm not muted. Yep. Yeah, so Medicare came out with a new ABN. So what does that mean? Well, first, of course, we'll start out with our acronym ABN, Advance Beneficiary Notice, and this affects Medicare. So Medicare patients, so there's an agreement with a Medicare member and a provider of service. Any physical therapist, laboratory, doctor, the provider of service, when the payment is expected to be denied, because there's some reasons that something's not covered for a patient, or there's a duration period or a number that they're allowed and they might exceed it. So there's different instances where something may not be paid by Medicare. So this is an agreement. It's a form that's signed. And Medicare's intent with that patient signing that ABN form is to transfer that financial liability to the patient. So they're aware of it. So the new form is issued and it's mandatory to use starting the end of next month. So if you have the old form and you're using it in your office or your facility, that's okay. The new form has to be started to be used at the end of August. So what they do is every 3 years, they reassess it and they say, okay, how's it been going? Is the verbiage still correct on there? Has there been a change recently in Medicare policy or any other kind of policy, federal policy, that warrants a change to this form? So this has been 3 years. So now this one will be good until 2023. So the newest form does have a change. You can go back just a little bit. So the newest form has a change on it, and this change is for dual eligible beneficiaries. So a dually eligible patient is one who has both Medicare and medical assistance. So they're covered by 2 federal plans, Medicare and medical assistance, or Medicaid, as some people say. So the provider cannot bill a dual eligible beneficiary when an ABN has been furnished. Because typically, I'll get into some instances here, but what's going to happen is they're going to say, okay, Ms. Jones, they're not going to cover your service. Here's why you think you need it. Explain everything in detail, and then say that service is going to be $45. I'll need you to sign this ABN. So, and then they pay $45 that day. That's the thing. So a payment is not coming from a dually eligible patient when they sign an ABN. So you can't bill them. After both carriers have been billed, after we send it to Medicare, we use a modifier saying they signed an ABN and here's why, and then they send it on to medical assistance and they denied it, the provider could make the patient financially responsible. So there is a website that I linked for the new form instructions, and they do come in various languages as well. So in case you have patients of a different population that speak a different language, they have instructions for them as well. But when do we use an ABN? So I put out a couple questions here for scenarios. So this notice is given by a provider, a supplier, a skilled nursing facility if you're billing Part B, laboratory, in advance of the service. That's why it's called an advance beneficiary notice. So you give it in advance if you know that item is going to be non-covered. So the patient is given the ABN when the provider believes that the Medicare service is denied for a particular reason. And I know that that's rather small and difficult to read, but this came straight off of Medicare's billing manual, which I do give a reference to as well. So kind of when do we give it, and what's it used for? But I do explain it here in more detail. So what if the service is experimental? So it's not approved by Medicare, it's not approved by the FDA perhaps. There were some surgical techniques that might be in category 3 that are temporary, those are considered experimental to most insurance carriers. So Medicare does state that payment for the experimental item or service is denied because no payment can be made for any expenses when the services are not reasonable and necessary for the diagnosis of treatment. So in circumstances as that, you give the patient an ABN. So it's experimental. They don't know if it's going to help that. It's not justifiable by medical necessity. So you still have a patient sign an ABN. Now, in some of those cases, think of an experimental procedure. That could be thousands of dollars. So that's definitely something that that patient has to consider that they really want to have done. Shouldn't we let's just have the patient just sign an ABN every time they come in, because we don't know if they're going to pay for it or not. Can we do that? Well, the ABN is not required for a service that's normally never covered. Medicare is never, ever, ever going to cover contact lenses. You don't have the patient sign an ABN because they're never going to cover it. It's nothing that they would ever cover. That's just an example off the top of my head. I don't know if they cover contact lenses or not, but I'm just throwing an example out there. Or when care lacks certification. The office didn't get some kind of certification, a letter of medical necessity perhaps. We can't just throw an ABN out there because we didn't do something in the process. So if you have a service that's excluded from coverage, then an ABN is issued, such as personal comfort items, a bed, or one of those chairs that raise you up, a scooter that's not medically necessary, but the patient finds it more convenient, perhaps. Routine eye care, dental care, some services like that, they can have an ABN issued, so the patient's made aware. What if the patient has a power of attorney? Well, who signs this thing then? So if the state assigns somebody on their behalf, perhaps they live in some kind of home and doesn't have family members, and the state assigns somebody to make their healthcare and their financial decisions, or if they have a durable power of attorney for a family member, perhaps, then that person is authorized to be the representative, and that person can sign. It just needs to indicate that they are their representative. What if the office draws a sample but sends it to the laboratory? And the laboratory is the one billing it. The office just happened to do it for the patient because they're there. They put it in that LabCorp bucket, and LabCorp comes and picks it up at the end of the day. So the provider must give a legible copy of this, because you know how when you make a copy, sometimes it just doesn't come out right, gray, or who knows, may not be very legible. So a legible copy of the signed ABN to then the laboratory, because they're the one actually billing for that service. So they need to know that that patient has a signed ABN. So in case their insurance company comes back denying it, they know that that patient was made aware. I always love this one. What if they refuse to sign it? Well, I always have people that you always have the old paperwork where they sign their signature saying they're going to be responsible if their insurance company doesn't pay, and they just refuse to sign it. So what if they refuse to sign an ABN? So we should indicate on the original copy that the patient refuses. Anybody else who, maybe another receptionist clerk who was there or something, might sign it as well, saying yes, they did refuse. And the provider should then consider, do they really want to give this person the service? Because maybe they're not well informed about it. Cosmetic Botox kind of thing, I want it, but I'm not going to pay for it, whatever the case may be. Maybe not give them the service unless not having the service is going to cause the patient harm. Then you should still provide the service, because that's what doctors are there for. What if the patient cancels that appointment or that service and then wants to have it later on? Well, an ABN is effective for 1 year, but you have to list all the applicable services. And this is in cases of repetition, like physical therapy. They're going to come in 3 times a week for 5 weeks and have procedure A, B, and C done while they're here. Or the duration period, the 3 times a week for 5 weeks, that should be indicated as well. That way, if there's any change, if they say today we're going to do ultrasound on you instead of a heat pack, then that's a change. So you need a brand new ABN because something changed with that original care. And so that ABN is no longer effective. Now, Medicare does have the claims processing manual. This all came from section 30. So number 50, they give a lot of examples. They tell you, okay, this patient wants to come in to have an EKG because her sister had a heart attack. So she wants to make sure she's not going to have a heart attack. But she doesn't have chest pain. She doesn't have anything else. Just her sister had one, so she just wants to be sure. Well, your insurance isn't going to cover that, so we have an ABN because it's not medically necessary. So they give a lot of examples, a lot of scenarios. So if you work a front desk, if you work administration, if you work the billing department, there are several more instructions about how to fill it out, what sections must be filled out, when to provide the patient a copy, can it be faxed, can it be emailed, lots of other information. The biggest thing about the new one is the dual eligible patients. So somebody who has both Medicare and medical assistance. And there are certain conditions as well. So if you did bill Medicare and medical assistance and they both denied, it depends on what kind of medical assistance that patient has. They have two different types of plans that are eligible. So it depends on which kind it was if that patient can be responsible. So it's just one new thing to keep in mind. And then this takes effect at the end of next month. So.
Already. Yep. Terry says 83036 is dicey at times at our office. I don't know what that one is without looking it up.
Well, it's the laboratory.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, some kind of blood draw, yeah. Oh, A1C. Yeah.
Oh, no more paper, huh? We got another poll. Woohoo! Which area do you feel you need more education in? This really is a good poll because it allows us to understand, what do we need to provide for you? And let me just pull that up.
Your camera wasn't on, by the way.
Oh, okay. Now it's on. And there we go. I launched it. So is it billing, CPT, ICD, maybe a specialty credential? You can put it in the chat or other. That would be great. Oop, other sure jumped in. People were putting other in. Very good, guys. Tonight, are we doing good on time? I think so.
I think so. You got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Last question coming up, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for putting in your responses during the webinar. You have been very active here today.
Oh, my. Yeah, they're just really good. We're already at 73%. Okay, so I'm going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we go.
Oh,
wow, billing, 27%.
Yeah.
There you go, Jennifer. She really does it well, and it's okay. Billing is one of those things like, well, yeah, I have to do it. But CPT, 28%. And CPT is a bulk of what your the credentialing grant, the main credentialing exams are on. ICD only 17%. That makes me a little sad in my heart, but that makes me think that maybe we're doing such a good job of explaining it that you aren't needing more information. And 19 said specialty. Let's see. Oh, CRC, definitely. I see those in that in the chat. And 8%. Well, thank you, guys. That tells us, again, what we need to focus on to give you the best service that we can. And the last question, we get to wrap up with angioplasties. A question came into the club forum and said, I'd like to understand coding for an angioplasty better. Where do I start? I have to tell you, that is not a small subject. It is huge. And so what I did was I kind of took it from the angle of literally, what's the first thing you have to do when you're going to start coding for an angioplasty? And to me, is where do we stick them? You know, that's the first thing that we want to do. So again, let's talk about what an angioplasty is. They actually put into the artery a needle and a wire, which looks like that, and there's a balloon attached, and of course it's deflated when it goes in, and then they can inflate it and push out that artery wall to let blood flow go through. And you know, I was reading a case study on a 14-year-old that started having chest pain and shortness of breath and some other signs and symptoms, and they went in and did an angioplasty at 14. And one of the great things about having an angioplasty is that you start feeling better right away because blood's getting to where it needs to be, oxygenated blood. It also is not a major surgery. Usually you're in and out 30 minutes. So for something that can end up being very dire, killing you, they could do this simple procedure, go in, open up the vessel and get you a relief right away and possibly save your life. So this catheter, again, is threaded through. They make a small puncture and it goes in either the arm or the leg, which I'll show you more about that. That's the main part. This was a really good photo that I found, and the heart.org is also an excellent resource for you. So you might want to write that down. Just you go to the website heart.org and you can get a lot of additional information. So this is the anatomy that we'd be dealing with. Usually they like to always go in through the groin, and so they tap there at the femoral artery, or they go up a little bit higher. But if they go to a secondary or an alternate site, they can go in through the radial artery, which would be in your arm. Think of where the radius bone is. Another reason why you should memorize the bones of the body, because other structures of the body, like the vascular system, is named after the bones. And then up, they also can go under the arm in the brachial, but they usually just go through the radial artery. And then ultimately they're going to go up through the aorta and get into wherever they need to around the heart, where we have some type of a closure, or the blood's not getting through for whatever reason. Now, this is a very important note that you'll want for real world coding as well as testing, that you are not to code for an angioplasty if the intent, the reason they went in was to place a stent. Okay, make a note, write that next to the codes for you, because it's very, very important, and it would be a really good testing thing to give you, excuse me, is to say, hey, we're going in to place this stent, and then they give you choices of an angioplasty code, and that's not that is not the intent of an angioplasty. Can they do a stent? Absolutely they can, but there's different codes to use. So I went to my trusty find a code and I put in the index angioplasty. So when you open up your CPT manual, just go to the index, look up angioplasty, and then it's going to say balloon. And then it's going to then say, well, how do you want to do it? Are you going to do a dialysis circuit? Which, no, don't open that up, because that's not very common. But you have open and you have percutaneous. Now, I don't want you to freak out when you see all of these codes, because if you pay attention, you will notice that some of these codes are very repetitious. So let's look at 37246 and this range to 37247. So I'm just going to say 37246. We see it under aortic, brachiocephalic. Look, it's right there too. And then we jump down to renal, same code, and visceral, all in open. Isn't that interesting, right? Now go look at percutaneous. Look, aortic, 37246. Oh, and brachiocephalic. Then, okay, of course, intracranial, that's not we're going up into the head. We want to do the heart is mainly where I think this question was coming through. But there's other ways that we can get in and do these procedures. So the basic code, the starting point, once you know, hey, where are we going to go? Where are we going to tap them at? You know, is it going to be a radial or is it going to be in the femoral? That main code is going to be 37246 for a transluminal balloon angioplasty. Now, we're not doing lower extremities. That means we're going to the heart. We're not going to open up some vessels in the lower extremities, meaning the legs, okay? Because that's a different set of codes. And then it's telling you why would you do it, and then occlusive disease, et cetera, et cetera. Then jump down to the BAT technique. The only thing you have to do with this particular code for the BAT technique is highlight initial artery. That's all. So note that this code 37246 means the initial artery that you're going into. But look at the add-on code of 37247. Don't code it by itself because it's an add-on code. That is the same code, but each additional artery lists separately an additional code for primary procedure, meaning because it's an add-on code. And so these two codes next to each other, you're going to highlight initial artery, and then after the semicolon on 37247, you're going to highlight each additional artery there, so that when you're testing or even when you're working and you're looking at what's the code I need for this, hey, we're just doing the initial artery, we're not doing anything else. 37246 is the code for the initial artery. All right, so the BAT technique, wonderful to use that. You can find that through the club. Again, that's all you have to do, is starting point. Now, I again just gave you all of these extra codes that you can go and do your research, but this person wanted, hey, where do I start? And that's how you start to look it up and understand that we're going to go in the leg or the arm, meaning, you know, femoral artery or radial, brachial, something like that. And that big red note, hey, if the intent is to go in and put a stent, don't code that angioplasty. It's not an angioplasty at that point. All right. See how quick I did that? Good stuff. Oh, did you get value from tonight's webinar? Hey, we want some feedback, not only from our people that have been to many of our webinars, but especially from our new people. Let us know, was this beneficial? And we also had some people even asking questions, say, hey, can you do a topic on flaps? Yes, we did do a lot of things with flaps in the past, and they're on YouTube. Take some time to go in and do that. Lots of stuff on flaps in the club. But if there's something specific you want on flaps, let us know. We can definitely put that in a club webinar coming up. Yep. I did some research on flaps for breast reconstruction when I thought I was going to have to do all that stuff. So yeah, I got lots of stuff in there in my brain. Okay, so yes, no, please leave a comment and let us know. And then not sure, let us know what we can do better or suggestions that you have. We're already at 73%. All right,
I do have
guys.
to say that's kind of one thing, you know, people, especially social media right now and all that, people just complain.
Oh my
But
word,
they don't,
yes.
but they don't tell you, they don't give you ways to improve. You know,
Right.
it's kind of, you know, somebody
Right.
complained about a lecture, but they don't say, this is what I don't like about it, or this is what
Right.
I think it should be, or here's an idea. It's always, no, don't like it.
We want
Okay.
to improve and we want to give you value. And of course, we enjoy doing this, but you know, we want to make sure that it's going to be beneficial to you. I'm going to go ahead and close this and share. 97% said yes, 3 said not sure. They're going to leave a comment. So let us know how we can make it better for you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, topics, hey, no. Let's see, Jennifer says, I'd like to hear more about coding hyperbariatric hyperbarics. Ooh, that would be fun. Yeah,
Oh,
anything with wound care. Yeah, wound care is good stuff.
Yeah, the ABN itself didn't change, just the options of what you have to put in the box for those people who are in. At the bottom, it's going to have a new date at the bottom, and that's how they know which form number it is that you're using.
So if you want to give us a survey, you guys, this is how you can do it. We got this set up. It's cco.pe/QA202007, and let us know, what you'd like to have for us. And we were discussing today that maybe working out something with people who are able to give us case studies. So if you come across, if you're going out and you're searching and you see this really unique scenario somewhere or a case study, let us know. And we'd love to code that out and discuss it. Maybe you find one on flaps. That would be fun. If you do one on spines, then Jennifer will do it. I have to tell you, my Instagram, no, it was LinkedIn. A spine surgeon took a picture and he said, "I love my job." And it looks like this person had literally a dozen wrenches things sticking up out of their back. It literally just looked like that. And I showed my surgeon and I showed my husband, and he said, "I've got those tools. I work on my car all the time," sticking out of that guy's back. It was an awesome picture. I'm going to have to find it and share it with you guys. But okay. So we are ready. Boyd, did we get a winner? Did we get a drawing?
We did. The wonderful lady who is our special person tonight, I should say, is Monique Jordan, who's a first timer here today. So,
Monique.
Hey.
Yeah, welcome. Congratulations. And you can choose these things that are on your screen, and you can let us know by, I believe, helpdesk@cco.us is the email to contact us at, and then we'll get you taken care of.
Everybody's saying congratulations.
Monique Jordan.
All right. Okay, so you got Blitz, year of the CCO Club, which is awesome, or our session with me, I guess, or, well, somebody.
Thanks to everybody
in talk to me for an hour.
Boyd.
Or Boyd, yeah. You're
Asking
right.
for hair tips. Yep.
We won't go there. Thanks to everybody who's been working on in the background here from the CCO team, getting the questions here ready and picking our winner here tonight. Thank you, Lori and Sylvia and Jesus, who has been kind of back in the background. So let's get on with the chat questions. These are your questions that have been presented to us during the webinar, and hopefully they haven't been too long. And if they are long, we'll try to attach them to a nugget and come up to another webinar, and maybe we'll get them there. Looks like we got one or two.
I'm only seeing one.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay. So when dependence on oxygen and dependence on a ventilator coded, is there a time frame for how long the patient is on either one for it to be considered dependent? Also, when do you code Z99.89 dependence on other enabling machines and devices? Would this be just for CPAP?
Boy, I saw something on that other dependence on other devices the other day. Now this is going to bug me because I can't remember what that was now.
Well, I know I don't think CPAP qualifies for that though. I'm there, I don't think CPAP would fit that. Just off the top of my head, like you said, you would have to do more research.
Enabling machines and devices. No, that's not a CPAP. That is, this is going to bug me.
Dependence on other enabling machines. What about people, somebody that isn't on a ventilator, but has cystic fibrosis? They have that suctioning machine. I don't know if that would be, but that's still external. It's not, or maybe it's a specific type of wheelchair. We'll have to do research on that.
Yeah, that's stumping me because I just encountered it the other day. Somebody just mentioned it that I was listening to something. Oh boy. And
I
they
know we get,
said dependence on, you would use this code, and it was an excellent example for an enabling machine. And I was like,
yeah.
oh yeah, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh,
Well, okay, so going back to the oxygen and dependence on a ventilator, as soon as they hook you up to a ventilator, you are dependent on a ventilator. Okay, that there isn't a time frame. It's not like they would. First of all, they're not going to only have you on there for 15 minutes or something like that. They don't put you on a ventilator unless you need it, and sometimes the person is in the ER and talking, you know, and struggling, and their O2 stats are dropping, dropping, and dropping. And there was one guy that I saw the documentation on, and his O2 stats were running 70, and they'd put him on 100% oxygen, and they would start coming up, and they'd be like 94, in the low 90s. And as soon as they took him off 100% oxygen, it dropped down in the 70s again. And so they put him on a ventilator. I mean, he couldn't maintain uh, himself. And so sometimes they'll do that because whatever the underlying condition is that is preventing them from getting oxygenation or being able to breathe on their own adequately, they've got to fix that first, and then so they've got to get you oxygenated till they can take care of the inflammation or whatever it is that's preventing you, pneumonia maybe or something. But dependence on oxygen, that's a diagnosis. So if a person is put on, sent home on oxygen, you're dependent on oxygen.
well, yeah, the dependence on oxygen code is Z9981. Dependence on supplemental oxygen long term.
That's correct.
So,
There is two
yeah,
codes there.
yeah. I was trying to see. I don't think there's a guideline. I'm teaching guidelines right now, but haven't got to that chapter yet. But
I
I
don't
don't
think
think there
it'll
was a
let.
guideline for length of dependence. It's going to go along with that, similar to dependence on drugs, where it has to be documented.
I
So
just,
dependence on
my computer's doing well, so I went in and typed in Google example of Z99.89, and find a code came up first, but
And you all are learning how they do research on these topics, and this is why we don't answer questions live on the webinar. We research them first.
Normally I can't do that, but my internet's running really, really. We got to knock on wood or something. I don't have any wood. It's all plastic. You know, you
Well,
got.
I'm
I'm
in the
looking for.
actual ICD-10 book, so I was trying to see if
Okay.
I don't believe there's a guideline. And, any other time they talk about dependence, it has to be documented by the provider as dependence.
Oh, okay. Dependence on, okay, look here, Cigna.com, even though it's 2015, let's see what they say, because a lot of times that's a great resource, is to see what the different payers provide education out to their providers. And
well, there's a coding clinic first quarter of 2020 that says it's not appropriate for CPAP, is what Martha stated. So Find a Code gives coding
look
clinics,
here,
don't they?
Z99, yeah, it does. Dependence on other enabling used to code dependence of the CPAP device, but this is 2015. So the coding clinic said, no, let me go type in find
And
code.
that was just 2020. That was just
So
first
that
quarter
was
of this year. So yeah.
I'm going to bring up my find a code, and let's see how much I can push my Z99.38, right? Is that what I'm doing? No. What's the code?
No. Well, I'm not there anymore.
dear.
Z9989. Yeah.
Okay, let's go see what Coding Clinic says. It's not there. No, it's not that one. It's under articles. Coding Clinic.
Oh, CPAP.
No, not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Code dependence enabling machines device not elsewhere classified. And it doesn't tell us what it is. So let's now, what I can do is go up and see if Finacode gave an example, and they didn't. Not otherwise specified. There was no article. Sometimes they'll have no articles or let us know something there. That's not going to do it. Status code sometimes. No. Okay, so go back to this. Find a code. Not seeing anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not.
That's all the way in IC9. Palliative care. Ooh, palliative care. That could be something.
That should make more sense.
So another thing, when I'm looking at this, I don't know how many pages it is. So if you put Control F and then put in the code Z99.89, it's listed one time, right? And right here. But is it going to give me medical devices? Not going to give me an example of it though.
This one gave me dependence on a machine, history of machine dependence, respirator dependence, machine, history of respirator. Yeah. Oh, somebody's wondering what dialysis. Maria's wondering if dialysis be considered.
No, there is a dialysis.
Yeah, there was one right above it, like a couple codes above it was dialysis.
So another thing you can do, guys, is do this when you go look in your index. Dependence on other enabling devices. So this is going to tell me that.
Yeah, there's aspirator, respirator, ventilator, renal dialysis, and wheelchair. And then there's other enabling devices.
Mm-hmm. You know what? That's a good homework. Now everybody in the club needs to go and let us know dependence on what. So if there's dependence on a wheelchair.
That was always the joke when it came out, is Z99.89 dependence on cell phones and computers. That was always the little meme about it or whatever.
My favorite code, and now I can't remember what it is, but it's dizziness and giddiness. Yeah, that's what I suffer from, dizziness and giddiness.
There's a code for that?
Yeah, there is. Huh. And I'm not even blonde. Dizziness and
friend
giddiness.
Has the Z99.1 on her door of her office with Darth Vader, you know, dependence on a respirator, breathing device.
Let's see. Some people have put in movement limiting disability, Sandra said, a walker. So.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely say, and definitely if I think of it, I'll pop it out there as the fact of the day on the club or whatever. But
we're gonna wake up in the middle of the night. We're gonna sit up and we're gonna say "ta-da!" and you know our husbands are gonna go, "What are you talking about?" You know, it's like CPAP. No.
Well, my husband won't wake up because his CPAP lets him sleep.
Oh, there. Active airway management, multiple machines, devices. I found to denote the need for continuous IV fluids.
Oh.
Yeah. that could be something. Yeah, thanks, Terry.
Well, and that's where some of these other come in there, because if it's not, you remember, if it's not listed by anything that's really there, then it falls in that other category, not necessarily unspecified, because unspecified is they didn't tell you.
Right.
But if they say they're dependent upon this device and you're like, okay, well, there's no code for it, it falls in the other device category. So
let's see. HCPCS might have the code. Yeah. Might have something more specific. Yeah. Very good. Okay.
all right.
Well, let me go back to the slide deck. Make sure there wasn't anything else added in there. And it wasn't. So, you know what? Most people find us on YouTube, you know, and we are hot on YouTube. So make sure you like and subscribe, because that's what all the famous YouTubers say. Don't forget.
we don't do that.
Hit
But
the little bell. Now they all say that. And don't forget to hit the little bell. You know.
But this is a big announcement. We just passed 4 million views and 31,000 subscribers. So that's a big deal for us. Thank you for everybody who's partaken of a YouTube video in the past and continues to every month.
You know what? We need to get to 100,000, because that's a big deal. Subscribers, help us get to 100,000 subscribers, because I hear them talk about that. It means something. I don't know what it means, but it's a big deal. I think we might get a little trophy or something. Maybe they send us a little plaque. I think YouTube sends us something. So let's make that happen, guys.
Cool.
But again, if you find something in the YouTube channel that's beneficial to you, you can share it with people. Tell other people this is a good place to search. We are also on Facebook. Really easy to find us on Facebook as well. And we are not doing any traveling and lecturing right now. We do have recorded lectures. That survey that Boyd created, we really appreciate your feedback on that. And that's it. Here's all different places where you can find this proven process really, really good if you know somebody that's thinking about becoming a coder.
I'll just point out to everybody, we put the handout for the webinar. It doesn't have all the answer sheets or any of that stuff, but it's in your GoToWebinar control panel there. So that's just kind of a taste of what the CCO Club members will get, which is pretty much everything that you saw here today. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for another wonderful webinar.
We had fun.
We did.
We'll see you. We have webinars, and this time next month, second to the last Thursday of the month. Mark your calendars now.
Yep. Same time, same bat channel. Same CCO channel. I don't know. Same pink, same purple channel. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. And we all have our logoed shirts, right?
Yeah.
I may have to get another one if I don't quit gaining weight from this
Mine's
COVID.
hot tonight. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Good night, y'all.
Thanks for staying with us.
Bye. Oops. There we go.